if we ceased enforcing our financial policy on the rest of the world, then our money would probably collapse very quickly.
There's never been a government that wasn't owned by the rich.
If there's no store of value, then it's not a money.
They're selling you that we're going to do all this stuff and we're going to tax the rich, but it's never happened.
DJ Badger coming at you live with Dad Influence.
Recording.
You weren't recording all of that? I mean, we were having a great conversation.
We could have recorded that. That could have at least been some, like, deleted scenes, extra content, something. Tell somebody send me $5 on Patreon, you can see me and Tawnya cutting up.
Just mad dog and everything.
$2.50 each. We making it. Alright, so you wanted to do an episode on MK Ultra.
Let's do some MK Ultra.
As everybody can probably see, we've gotten some new updates. We got a new logo by this old lady right here. She did a good job.
Hell yeah.
I really think this fucking logo is badass. The
It is.
Influence podcast.
I even used the honey badger you gave me.
I've figured out how to use OBS and Zoom together. Or not Zoom, Discord together, so I don't have to pay for Zoom.
Hell yeah.
Fuck the corporations, so.
Demonetized, baby.
Yeah, anything I can save money here, because, like, eventually, like, what the plan is I want to make this to where it makes enough money to where I can, you know, I can start doing part of it be charitable and part of it be, you know, keeping this stuff running, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cause, like,
charity, man. It's always good to give back.
I definitely want to do a bunch of cool stuff with especially with the Innocence Project. I think I want to look into that, because I think that's a lot of BS. A lot of these people literally looking at prison and they're innocent, and that's horrible, of course.
Or
But
even
yeah,
the ones that do get out of prison and found that they're innocent, they get nothing in exchange for the time that they spent in prison either. That's fucking terrible. But yay, they got released into a world they know nothing about after spending 20, 30 years in prison.
Right, and that's another thing that I kind of, you know, we could side note into it. Honestly, I think that we need to really revisit all of that. Because to me, prison should be about rehabilitation.
Yeah,
So
it's not.
We should really do a little bit more research and try to figure out exactly how long it takes to actually cause somebody to not do something, and exactly what we need to do while they're in prison to get them to not do something again in the future, if that makes sense, and have that be the focus. Because it's like, I don't care how long you're in there from a revenge standpoint. I don't care. Like, if you can go in there for 3 months and I can be confident you'll never do it again, then 3 months, cool. Like, I think that the goal needs to really be the focus on trying to get these people where they're not, you know, violent. Not the,
Agreed.
you know, not a focus on getting people to where, you know, we're just putting them, you know, getting them out of the way, get these people
And it would
off
help
the streets.
not stain them for the rest of their lives when they get out.
Yeah.
Institutionalizing these people is not the answer.
Yeah, you start to look at all this, you know, the longer someone stays in prison, I've looked at statistics about this, the longer someone stays in prison, the likelihood that they'll repeat offend goes up. Actually.
Way up.
And so, like, if you think about it like that, and this is kind of, well, when I say this is like, if you take a person who's a thief and they've been thrown in jail for stealing, and it's like you compare different thieves with different lengths of sentences. The people who have the longer sentences are more likely to go to jail. go back to jail.
When theft is theft.
Yeah, so and what I mean basically is I wanted to make the point that like I'm not skewing these statistics by saying, well, obviously a murderer or somebody who's like a rapist or something might have something a little bit more wrong with them than somebody who's shoplifting. You see what I'm saying? So to say that longer sentences lead to more recidivism, well, some of these people are super, super violent. And so, yeah, I'm not meaning in that sense, where if you take the totality of these people versus the totality of these people. I'm meaning it in the sense of if you give a shoplifter 2 years versus if you give a shoplifter 6 years, the one that had 6 years is more likely to be back in jail next year.
That's because you're institutionalizing them.
Exactly. They literally get comfortable in jail. And it's like, if you really want to sit here and think about it, it's not that crazy to understand. Because it's
and
like...
seriously, like, how do you expect them to come on the outside without being able to get a job, without being able to get a place to live, without any of that, and expect them to do good? You don't. You can't.
Well,
there's no possible way.
Well, just think about it like this. Like me, I'm 30. I'm 31. And like, take 20 years away, you go back to when I was 10, and think about how different the world is between now and then. You see what I'm saying? Picture going, coming out into the world, and it just be that different. Out of nowhere.
I also think it
matters. A completely different culture the entire time. It's a culture shock.
Intent matters too. Like, if you're having to steal to put food on the table, that's a different than just stealing for, fun. It's completely different.
Well, once upon a time, it wasn't considered stealing to eat fruit off a tree. Right?
Fuck, now it's even stealing if you collect rainwater, like...
Yeah, but like, once upon a time, and this is stuff that I don't know 100% whether or not I agree with doing it exactly like this, because I could see how this could go bad, but, like, it was illegal if you went to if somebody had an orchard, right, and you were walking by, and you reached down and picked up an orange and started eating it, that wasn't theft. What was theft was if you had a bag, and you filled it up with oranges and left. You see what I'm saying? To just eat an orange that was on the ground wasn't theft. It was.
But if you're trying to feed your community, so you bag it up.
That was not necessarily trying to feed your community. A lot of times, the reason people would bag it up was because they were legitimately going to make profit off of it. That guy was trying to feed himself. This guy's trying to profit.
Yeah.
That's the difference. You know what I mean?
Some people would still take some home.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily arguing against what you're saying. I'm just making the point of there was a big difference of that, and then there was also, like I said, it just wasn't something that was prosecuted. The law didn't concern itself with trifles. And a guy eating an orange is a trifle. It's not a big deal. That was actually a Latin term that used to be in law, where they would just be like, literally they would just dismiss cases because it was like, what the hell are we doing here? Who gives a shit about your stupid orange? Get out of my face. We got bigger fish to fry than some guy ate an orange in your orchard.
So,
you know what I mean?
I once was sitting at one of my friend's house, and the cops came, like, just busting through the door, right? And we were smoking weed, and they wanted to search me, and I was like, do you have a warrant? They're like, well, we got permission from the people in the house. I was like, yeah, but you still need a warrant to search my personal belongings.
Yeah, you can't search a person.
So they gave me an internalized usage, like an internalized possession of marijuana. And like, I took it to court, and of course, I fought it, and the judge was like, what the hell are we even doing here? Like, what is this? Internalized? Did you guys get a UA? How do you know? And it was basically like my word against somebody else's. And it's like, how do you prove that? And I mean, thank God I was in a rural community, you know, where they're a little bit more lenient
Thank God you had a
on.
real ass judge that knew what he was supposed to do in that situation, because it's literally like it's one of those situations where you're supposed to be like, why are you wasting the taxpayer money hemming up somebody for smoking weed? Like,
Which is
dog,
exactly
like,
what he said.
like
He's like, you didn't care for smoking weed. You're just wasting my time.
it's
Why
not
are you
even,
wasting
you don't even
my time?
have this chick with pounds of pot. You don't even have her, like, trafficking weed. You have her smoking weed. That's what you got.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, you're just wasting my time.
Yeah, that's
No.
like that. That's what you're wasting my time.
Dismissed. You have a lovely day. Sorry that we wasted your time too. And I was like, based.
This is
I'm out.
but the reason why I say I can understand how that could be an issue, right? Where I go the whole trifles to an extent, is it's like, could you have just anybody and everybody just walking into Walmart and going, I'm just gonna grab an apple and just start eating it?
Yeah.
What's
I mean, I
gonna
do that
happen?
with grapes.
What's that gonna create?
I do that with grapes. I'll grab a bag of grapes and I'll eat it as I'm walking through Walmart. Fuck you. Are you recording now?
Yeah, I've been recording. We've been
Oh,
recording
shit.
this whole time.
I didn't realize.
Yep. Burning on my Dr. Ganja. Well,
It's Mother's Day. I'm having my mom's juice.
I wonder if I'm... Yep, okay. Recording has resumed. I'll probably have to edit a little bit of piece of that out, but that's no big deal. We was rambling for a while, so we can get back on actual topic. So we want to talk about MK Ultra. I would actually refer a lot of people from my podcast to another podcast. There is a podcast on Joe Rogan. It's actually Joe Rogan's podcast. It's Tom O'Neill. Somebody I really think that you guys would find that guy interesting. He kind of came out of nowhere. I accidentally listened to him because I don't really listen. I listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, but I don't listen to every episode. If that makes sense. I literally pick certain people out that are good. I literally pick certain people out that seem interesting. But this is one that just kind of auto-played while I was doing stuff, so I just kept listening. But Tom O'Neill is actually an investigative journalist that looked into the Charles Manson murders and actually found that Charles Manson was heavily connected with a lot of the same people that were actually connected to the MK Ultra project. Including Jolly West, which was the psychologist that was running it. So, how much do you know about MK Ultra specifically there, Tawnya? I'll let you go on your little rant, because I know you wanted to chat.
So, to be perfectly honest, I don't know too much about the MK Ultra. I do, however, know that there was an evolution between serial killing and mass shootings, where basically serial killers turned into mass shooters, and I personally do believe that had something to do more with MK Ultra and the surveillance state.
Okay,
because
so let's just talk about what the actual MK Ultra program was. I'm actually on my computer, so I can pull up Google right now, and I will actually quote to you guys what Google says the MK Ultra program is all about.
It's about creating super soldiers, was it not?
No, it was not, actually. More Manchurian Candidate.
Huh.
Project MK Ultra was an illegal human experimentation program designed and undertaken by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, intended to develop procedures and identify drugs that can be used during interrogations to weaken people and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture. It
The
began in
truth serum.
1953 and was halted in 1973. MK Ultra used numerous methods to manipulate its subjects' mental states and brain functions, such as covert administration of high doses of psychoactive drugs, especially LSD, and other chemicals without subjects' consent. Electroshocks, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, and other forms of torture. And then you have also Project Artichoke, which was also by the CIA, and then you also have Project Bluebird, right? Project Artichoke was to use LSD, right, and forced addiction and subsequent withdrawal from morphine to produce amnesia and other vulnerable states, right? And if you go and you find, what is this, MK Naomi, was that it? No, that's a different one. This is one where they were trying to figure out something. But anyway, I can't actually remember what the code name, because this, as government programs do, they evolve, right? They start with one thing and they start to move to other things. You also have Operation Midnight Climax, where they were using prostitutes to dose Johns with LSD to produce a lot of these states. A lot of this stuff was actually done during the Cold War. And the eventuality that they were trying to create was a Manchurian candidate. So what they were trying to do was produce a state where they could create basically a sleeper agent that would kill on command. Right? So if you actually follow and dig deep into this, it was shut down. And when it was shut down, the guys that were in charge were talking about the next step being a hippie commune, specifically, right? And then right after that, all of these same people are involved in Charles Manson. Charles Manson's actually caught with like a gun, a shitload of LSD, a bunch of pot, on probation in a different state than he's on probation on, and doesn't even get a slap on the wrist. And I mean, like, he doesn't get sent to jail, nothing happens to him, to an extent of his probation actually gets transferred to the other state. So that's actually how he ends up in California, is he got caught in California with a bunch of shit he was not supposed to have on probation, especially. Anybody else would have been in prison. And then you can actually follow this. It's like several times he actually gets caught by the cops violating his probation, and nothing happens. He's in direct contact with a lot of these same people from the MK Ultra project, and he happens to run a hippie commune that goes crazy and starts killing people. Right? And then
so are they using this to make communism look bad?
Well, I mean, that's what they were trying to do at that point. That's part of the, not necessarily communism that looked bad. It's kind of a, like, again, this is one of those common things that I always tell you guys, if you've always heard me, is like, nothing's ever done for one reason. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, why were they targeting, John through prostitutes? Well, because those people couldn't snitch. Because if something was done to them, they couldn't go and tell the cops. Because what are you going to tell them? I was going to buy a prostitute and this happened? You see what I'm saying? So no one could tell. They wouldn't go and tell their friends. They wouldn't go tell their family. They wouldn't go tell anybody because of what they were doing.
So, I do
Commies
know.
didn't trust the government, and so they were always saying bad shit about the government, so everybody just kind of expected anti-government stuff being said by the commies. So if they went after communes, then when they said something, no one would take them seriously.
So I do know that Scientology and the Manchurian Candidate had a lot in common with each other with Ron L. Hubbard, and there's like a whole deep conspiracy involving Scientology and this drugging with prostitutes, drugging Johns, and everything like that, if I recall correctly. Do you know anything about that?
I don't off the top of my head, but that is sounding very CIA Manchurian Candidate. That like I said, but that's really what they were going for. And what I'm basically arguing is they weren't able to produce exactly a targeted killer, or maybe they were, and maybe that's how you got Kennedy. You know what I mean? Think about Kennedy. Think about Kennedy. You had a lone killer who was off his fucking rocker, right? Who was also killed by a lone killer off his fucking rocker.
Right.
So I'm not saying that that's the case, and like, but it's, you know, if you look at the people that were in the Manson quote unquote family, you know, as they called it, those people were all off the rocker too, and so was Manson. So if it also begs the question when you talk about these like school shooters, like they're like, oh, all these people are on SSRIs. Is it really about the SSRIs? Or is it about the fact that they're being treated by psychologists? And
Ooh.
the CIA is known to use psychologists to dose certain people with certain things. And I know this is hella tinfoil hat shit, but it's not. I'm not saying I got proof and this is what's happening. I'm saying that there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that points this way. The government actually has admitted that recently, actually, because of Tom O'Neill, they have actually recently admitted that Manson was a CIA asset. He was a government asset.
Interesting.
So, what's going on? You see
Another
interesting. And then right after the Manson family stuff is when you have Columbine, you have all of these serial killings start happening. That's when mass shootings start happening. You start to wonder why mass shootings are a uniquely American thing, or really a uniquely Western thing.
Yeah.
Because it's not like there aren't guns in these other places. People think that, like, guns are banned, so there's no guns. It's like, that's not how things work.
Right.
There's
and another interesting one is the Unabomber as well. Now, Ted Kaczynski, I do believe he was a professor at UC Berkeley, maybe? But he had went to
these colleges, state colleges.
He had went to Harvard University when he was younger. And he was one of the youngest students at Harvard University, very, very intellectually intelligent man. And he was put under, or so, I mean, they say, who knows, whatever, I'm just saying what the rumor is that he went through MK Ultra when he was a student at Harvard University, and then he went all lone wolf, single man, bombing, like, universities, bombing, basically government institutions, because he was against he was against the industrial machine.
So what I'm arguing is maybe, I don't know how much control they have over these folks once they set them off. You know what I mean? But I do think they're setting people off.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you also look at this last one, it was this trans lady. So she was talking to psychologists.
Oh, yes.
or trans dude. I don't remember which one it was, but it's a trans person. I don't, and,
Which,
and to me,
interestingly enough,
I don't care about what I don't care about any of the other stuff. I just care that they're killing people. I have a problem with that.
interestingly enough, this was the first biological female to ever do a mass shooting like this. So there's a turn of events there too. Like, we have a trans man who was born a biological woman or a biological female, and
is it too dark to make the joke?
if I remember
She
correctly,
was going all in to being a man. She had to do a mass shooting.
correct.
No, I'm just playing.
Which
that's too dark. I'm gonna go to hell.
Absolutely, like, because that is not the spiritual nature of a woman by any means.
But I think that one honestly could be a real one too. That's kind of what I'm saying is this isn't me saying that none of them are real. Right? There are, but and the reason I say it's a real one is because it was a trans person shooting up a Catholic school, and when you have these rabbit hole ideologies, and trans is part of that, where like they go into these rabbit holes of pure acceptance, the same way a lot of these Nazis go into these rabbit holes of pure acceptance, that are just telling them that everyone that disagrees with them is evil. You know, and to me, it helps foster this kind of hate that creates this, radicalism that people want to start killing people. It's the same thing with Islam. Islam had a lot of that situation really present itself right after 9/11, where there was just no tolerance for any Islamic people. So they went into these rabbit holes of places where there was tolerance, and the only places there was tolerance for Islamic beliefs was places where they were saying shit like, let's fucking kill all the infidels.
So basically, MK Ultra is like, what would you call that? You would call that psychological warfare on crack, basically. I mean, that's pretty much what it was, right? Because, I mean, they had developed a whole range of psychoanalytical weapons, I would say.
Yeah, using different various hallucinogenic drugs. And then that also starts to make you understand why those drugs got swiftly banned right after that. Because
this also gave us a whole new kind of war, too. Like, a war which is a battlefield over the human mind, basically.
Exactly. It's always been a battlefield, though. This is kind of the point that I make. It's the reason why the government had such a stranglehold on the mail, and then when the form of communication switched to the telephone, they strangleholded the communications through the telephone. When people started watching and consuming information through television, they created the FCC, and then now as people are moving to the internet, they're starting to try to figure out a way to regulate that, and they're watching the hell out of it. This is the thing: is the government always will be worried about your communication. As much as that First Amendment says that it exists, the fact that the FCC exists in the first place tells you that they do not want you to be able to just say whatever you want to say.
Now, the interesting part is, do you remember back when they were doing this whole mind control, and this goes into biochemistry too, like your vision and what you see, and triggering your hormone response that goes through your body that releases certain hormones. They did this with the Coke and the popcorn experimentation during movies. If you remember that, that's like one of the first instances of this is when they were in a movie theater and they wanted people to buy more Coke and buy more popcorn. They would give you subliminal advertising that would trigger a response for you to go buy more Coke and more popcorn. Now, during the movie theater setting, people were too afraid to get up and disturb the movie. So basically what they did is they had somebody in there that went and they got up and did it. They went out, got popcorn and soda and came back. And then all of a sudden you have all sorts of people starting to go and buy popcorn and buy soda and everything like that. It's a form of mind control in that kind of aspect.
Break the paradigm.
Yeah.
Once one person does it, we can all do it.
Correct. And I think there is very much a copycat kind of experience that comes with mass shootings and the SSRI.
Like that's kind of where I go to. Like, I'm not saying that all mass shootings are orchestrated by the government, but it's just very interesting. Like, it's like every time they have some kind of gun legislation bill coming up, like there's a mass shooting right before it. And I don't mean like it's like you'll have this 6,000-page legislation come out hours after a mass shooting.
Yeah.
It's like you did not write that in these last 4 hours. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way.
I mean, and these are thousands and thousands of pages.
Exactly.
With a bunch of shit buried in between them, too. Like, yeah. And and I find that little aspect to be interesting too, because I mean, you can almost do it without the drugs. You can do this sort of stuff with just simple little triggers of the hormone system within your body. Like, again, the Coke, I mean, it triggers this, oh, I'm hungry. It triggers a sense in your stomach that says, oh, I'm hungry. And those are from the hormones that are being released from some sort of subliminal advertising that they did during those. And I find that also to be very interesting.
And the internet has perfected that, dude. And this is kind of what I've kind of pointed out to. I think me and you talked about it last podcast we had, where we were talking about like how like you'll search something and it's like they can literally guess based on your activity online what your next thought is going to be. You see what I'm saying? So it's something I've thought of and I've never even, said out loud. And then I'm seeing ads for it.
All of a sudden.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like, because they're able to literally, predict that with a pretty high degree of accuracy. If you are interested in X, Y, then you are also interested in Z.
And a lot of this has to do with the marketing.
Like, it's not anything fucking creepy, like they're literally reading your mind, but to an extent, they kind of are able to.
No, they're not reading your mind. They're controlling it. I think there's a difference between mind reading and mind control.
For sure.
They're like, oh, well, we can predict this. If they like this, and they're going to like this, and they're going to think, it's very much a mind control thing, which, again, leads us back to MKUltra. And now, like, I mean, look how endemic that drugs are here. It's basically, I mean, we have a bunch of meth heads and heroin addicts all over the internet, Googling conspiracies and all this other stuff, and then the rest of us that aren't necessarily, we're just into conspiracy. They can predict it just based on the drug usage. It's very interesting.
And the thing about it is here's the thing about it, for me, is it's like, during this time, while the government is literally trying to control people's brains, right? There's people running around on the street screaming, the government's trying to control our brains.
Yeah.
And they labeled those people as crazy. And it's like, yeah, they were wrong. It wasn't through radio waves. It was through chemicals.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is correct. Like, if you start looking at the fluoridation of water, have you ever looked into that?
I mean, we can talk about the poisoning of water, sure.
Fluoridation has like
Yes.
very little scientific evidence to
Big
support
thing in
being good for your teeth.
big thing in Michigan.
And that's number one. And let's add to another thing that's kind of interesting about fluoridation is it was actually added to the Nazi concentration camps. It was added to the Jews' water because it was known to cause complacency.
So, am I able
Did you know
to
that?
share my screen? Am
So
I
here's
able to
another-
share my? Am I able to share my screen?
Don't know if I can make that let's see what we can do.
I want to show you something.
I might have to resize some things, but we can make it happen.
I want to show you something that's very interesting that has to do with this because I was talking to you earlier about forever chemicals, right? And you're like, I don't know if I know too much about that. Now that you're talking about fluoridation, you do know about it. So
fluoridation, yeah, but let me make my quick point on fluoridation real quick. But like fluoride has like very little scientific evidence to support that. And then let's just be honest. Do you really believe, like, let's say, what's more crazy? Let's actually sit here and weigh this out, right? What's more crazy? The government's putting fluoride in the water because they want us to be more complacent. Or the government cares about your teeth.
Yeah. So
What's more crazy?
Government cares about your teeth. Obviously.
Out of everything else in the world, the government cares about your teeth.
Dan, do you know what forever chemicals are?
But
alkyl
no, I do not. I don't actually understand what you're referring to, but I'm willing to hear you out. Like I said, I'm never the one to sit here and pretend like I know everything. I will plead my ignorance.
It's fluoridation. It's exactly what you're talking about. So, am I able to share my screen? I want to show something to you.
Do it. Let's see what it does to the
okay
thing. I'll play with it and make it work.
All right.
Oh. We are recording. And here, let's see if I can do that.
Operation Mind Control, baby. All right. Do you see it?
You should be getting it. Yeah. It shows your map.
Awesome. So this is the fluoridation that you are speaking of. This is the PFAS, which is forever chemicals. It's polyfluoral alkyl substance is what it is. It's a fluoride that they put in water. So, and this is the contamination of America or of the U.S. on these chemicals, right? So if you look at some of these here, let's take the other known sites and it started at the military sites, first of all. But look at the above. So this is below, we'll take the below proposed limits. Now look at the above proposed limits of the PFAS contamination and where they lie. These are like heavy urban areas, right?
Right.
So this is where water has been contaminated with the fluorides. And interestingly enough, these fluorides, the government just last year, there was a judge who had told the Department of Defense, because they started out at these military sites right here. And basically where they're claiming that this contamination started was through fire, like the fire fire hoses when they do training for fighting fires, and the foam that comes out of the fire hoses to fight fires is basically what had caused this kind of contamination, and this contamination is so widespread. Now, so these are the sites that they started, and this is where it is concentrated the most in drinking water. So the judge had ruled that the Department of Defense had to clean up these forever chemicals. And these forever chemicals, they don't break down, right? So this is the fluoride stuff that you're talking about. They don't break down. It's very hard to clean up. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I just wanted to show that part to you. Which, these chemicals that you're talking about that cause complacency, I'm not so sure that you're so far off, and I'm also not so sure that you are correct that there isn't scientific evidence that goes behind it. There is. People just are not aware of it.
No, I don't mean that there isn't any scientific evidence. There is scientific evidence that it causes complacency and less aggressiveness in people. There isn't very much scientific evidence that it helps with your teeth. It's
now,
very, very shallow.
Another part of the scientific evidence that these, you know, like the water, it is contaminated, whatever. Another thing that these things cause is sterility. They cause cancer. Just various kidney failure. They cause all kinds of different things like that. And so the Department of Defense, right before the Republicans started sending immigrants up to Martha's Vineyard, right? So right before they started sending them up to Martha's Vineyard, and then the people or the governments over there in Martha's Vineyard sent them over to Cape Cod, which Cape Cod is extremely contaminated with these PFAS. And they were sending immigrants there to what? They said it was a safe place. It was the safest place that they can be. But the safest place that they can be is highly contaminated with these nasty-ass forever chemicals? That doesn't make sense. It contaminates.
You gotta get them inoculated. You gotta get them all chemicaled up.
Sterilized.
Before they run through the country.
You gotta sterilize them because we want good workers. We just don't want them to reproduce. Now, I think that the MK Ultra does actually go that far. That's my
like I said, I don't trust these guys. Like I said, this is kind of the point that I'm getting. It's like whenever we're having conspiracy talk, some of this stuff is based on fact and some of this stuff is based on speculation. And it's like, that's why I'm being very clear. It's like, when I'm sitting here telling you, you got Jolly West, you got these names, this is the stuff I'm telling you, that's fact. It's like, but the speculation is this is around the same time that smash shootings and freaking serial killers started happening. That's the part where I'm being honest, it is speculation, but it is exactly what they were trying to do. So all I'm speculating is that they were successful, and they didn't tell us they were successful.
And if you also look at that map that I just showed you, most mass shootings happen in those areas. I mean,
I don't know. Like I said,
speculating and all.
And it isn't even me just doing the Alex Jones thing. It's like, I got the documents. I'm just asking the questions that nobody's asking. No, I'm not even doing that. I'm literally saying, like,
I'm purely speculating too.
Yeah, I'm gonna straight up be honest. Like, I don't know, but I can tell you this: that like there are plenty of places that have hella guns, like Switzerland, that don't have fucking mass shootings every other weekend, and they have guns in their schools because they literally teach kids how to shoot guns in school.
Right. Which they should, because gosh, everybody should know how to kill their own damn food.
And
because
not even
you
just
rely on
that.
the government
It's not
to
even
supply
just
your
that.
goddamn food
This is
for you.
something
You're
I've said.
rude.
I'm like, it's not even just from teaching them how to use the gun. It's also teaching them gun safety. They live in a country with more guns than people.
I live in a state with more guns than people.
I'm just saying,
and
like,
you know
this
what we
country
don't
that
have?
we live in,
Mass shootings.
this country that we live in has more guns than people. You should be learning gun safety at the very least in school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You should know how to safely handle a gun. Generally.
I remember back when I was in high school, like, kids, like, in Wyoming, because I'm from Wyoming, you know, we have one of the highest gun rates per capita that there is. Kids were showing up to high school with rifles in their back, like, just displayed right in the back, you know? Like, you didn't just fuck around. Like, and these kids knew how. Like, they knew gun safety, they knew how to fire them, they knew how to aim them. And basically they used them for hunting. And it was, you know, it's like a whole huge culture from where I'm from. And we don't go around just killing each other. But then again, we're also not contaminated with PFAS. I'm just saying.
And like I said, this goes back to the question is like, how much of this is intentional? And that's the thing is this is one of the big, it goes back to one of my big points that I make. It's like, you can't claim democracy so long as we have secrets.
Oh, and the gatekeeping of information, that's how you get conspiracy theory, is when people like the government try to control the truth. That's how you get conspiracy theories. So you want to rail against conspiracy theory, but yet you are going to go ahead and advocate for controlled truth? That you are the reason that we have conspiracy theory.
Right. Well, show me a fucking piece of paper that doesn't look like it's got fucking Tetris bars on it.
Right. Right.
And look like somebody was playing Tetris. Like, show me a piece of paper that actually has the truth.
Country, go
like,
off.
You shouldn't be able to keep a secret more than a couple of months. You're a public official. I get having a couple of months grace period, to be honest. I'll give you that. Because if you're trying to get ahead of certain things, I get that. I'll give you a couple months.
Right?
What if we make that rule? You can keep things classified, and I don't give a shit what you classify, but you can only classify it for like fucking 3 months.
Right.
After 3 months, it automatically becomes
30,
public record.
Years. Not 30, 40 years. Are you really? And you want to know why we have conspiracy theories? And then you want to sit there and say how conspiracy theory is so bad?
How are you able to keep a secret for 40 years? And we're supposed to vote on whether you're supposed to be in charge every 4 or 2 or 6.
Didn't we have a post in the group about truth?
Think about that. It's like literally you can't know none of the shit I did while I was in office until well after I'm out of office.
At least 30 years.
But it's a democracy.
A democracy, yeah.
But we're voting on what I'm doing, trust me.
A democracy where we choose leaders based on money. Yeah, that's democracy. And you know, I wish more people had mine and your standards where we decide that we're going to criticize our own side. You know how I criticize Democrats and you criticize Republicans, and like we meet each other somewhere in the fucking middle. I wish more people had that.
That's why I'm a honey badger, bro. Honey badger don't care.
Yeah.
Honey badger eats snakes too.
Oh.
I'm just saying. And poisonous ones.
Right.
He'll just take a nap.
That's awesome.
That's the point. The point of the matter is at the end of the day, it's like I don't I, I don't I don't agree with that shit. Look, you got to police your own side. You got to say, hey, look, if I don't agree with this, I don't agree with it. And then the thing is like, and I'll also, like I said, I separate my value judgments from my political judgments. You know what I mean? And I do that intentionally because it's like I believe in a certain way of raising my kids, and I believe in a certain way of doing certain things, and in a lot of ways, me and Alex actually do agree on how to live life. Right?
You know, I find it weird that me and Alex do too, even though, like...
It's just politically, I don't think that we should enforce any of it.
I mean, me and Alex
And
do
I
too,
see
which
the
is
value
very...
in allowing somebody to live the kind of lifestyle you have, or the lifestyle, anyone else has. It's like, I have an interracial marriage, and there's a lot of people out there that might have an issue with that, and I don't give a flying fuck because it's not their life to live.
But you have the cutest baby.
He is the sweetest, dude. But like, that's what I'm saying. Up until like maybe 20 years ago, like that wouldn't have even necessarily been cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people would have had an issue with that. Again, talking about when I was 10 years old.
Not cool.
When I was 10 years old, that might have been an issue in a lot of places.
It's still an issue to some people.
And it is, and I don't give a flying fuck.
Good. You shouldn't.
And that's kind of the thing is it's like, but at the same time, it's like, and I know it is actually, to be honest, because I actually asked the dude to marry us. It was a pastor, and he was like, no, I don't believe in that shit.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm dead serious. And actually, I looked into the law, and I found out that the law actually states that because of because they were trying to get around marrying gay people in Alabama, they went libertarian and just separated the state from marriage and said basically anybody can marry anybody. All you got to do is come in and file the paperwork. So they made it where the justice of the peace didn't even have to marry anybody. All you do is file your paperwork.
Yeah.
So you marry yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So when I found that out, I was like, hey, Dad, you want to come and marry me and my wife? And he was like, hell yeah. And I was like, cool.
That's awesome, though.
So, like, at the end of the day, it's like, I got something that was even better. But at the end of the day,
right?
It's like, at the end of the day, too, it's like, I didn't want that guy to marry me and Shay at that point. It's like, okay, well, you don't agree with this? You don't believe in this? I don't want you to do it then. It's like, that's kind of the thing with the gay wedding cake thing that didn't ever make any sense. It's like, why do you want this guy to bake you a cake?
Right. Right.
Like, why wouldn't you just go? Are you telling me that's the only bakery? You're telling me you can't find a bakery that will bake a cake for a gay wedding?
No, you can find all kinds of bakeries.
I'm sure you can find somebody that wants that money. I would bet $1,000 you can find somebody within 15 miles that wants that money.
I think it had more to do with putting that specific person out of business. Exactly. For their beliefs.
And that's kind of my point. It's like, at the end of the day, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. If you don't want to do it, if you don't believe in it, I don't want you to be a part of it anyway.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And it's like, it's one of those things, it's like, if you're an anti-gay, like, people don't realize the repercussions of what they try to create. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you have that guy, right? Now you're forcing him to bake that cake. How much spit, cum, and armpit sweat is going to end up in that cake?
Right.
Instead of just allowing him to say, nah, I'm not going to make that cake.
I'll bake my own cake, thank you.
Right, and that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like, I'd rather just let the motherfucker be loudly a bigot than quietly a bigot.
Right.
Right. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. It's like, letting these people be out with it lets you know who you got to watch out for.
But at the
You
same
know what
time,
I'm saying?
you don't
Allowing
have
the
to
no
be a
blacks
bigot
allowed
just to
sign
fight a
tells
bigot.
you what businesses not to support.
I mean, that also draws a line at, like, you're becoming a bigot to fight a bigot.
Exactly. That's what I'm kind of
Yeah.
saying too. It's like allowing the no blacks allowed sign tells you what businesses not to support.
Right. I honestly prefer my bigots to be loud and proud, so.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's like I want to know who to avoid.
That's why everybody who sits there and says they can't allow platforms to be used
Oh, Chris from
for
Brooklyn. Have you ever
these
heard of
people.
have you ever heard of Notes of a
Them.
Goon? You ever heard of a
I don't
show?
want
It's
to.
called Notes of
I
a
want to
Goon.
know who not support.
You ever heard of a show called Notes of a Goon? I think I shared it
No.
to you guys. It's a guy, it's Chris from Brooklyn. It's a hilarious show. He does like news commentary, but he's just like does it like a dumbass guy from Brooklyn. It's not in a mean way. Like it's funny. It's like he's doing it like a goon from Brooklyn, and it's hilarious. It's a great show. But like he's drinking a beer the whole show, talking like dumb shit about everything, and it's great. Like they did a missile mayhaps for the latest stuff going on with all these different missiles blowing up and not doing what they're supposed to and all that. And he did it with Benny Hill music going on the whole time. It was great. But
Right.
he's got what were we talking about? My fucking ADD.
um. So we were talking about bigots and business and allowing bigots to, be loud and proud.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. He has a bit that he has continuing on his show where he makes fun of the Proud Boys because he's like, why don't you just join a real Nazi group like Atomwaffen? And like,
Ooh.
have you ever heard of Atomwaffen?
I have not.
Dude, they have a guy that's like one of their little leaders, and his code name, like his nickname, is literally Rape. A man named Rape.
See, I want to know this person. I want to know who to steer.
Hold on. Let's see.
It kind of makes me wonder, like, if rapists get, like,
Hold on,
rapists, they go unnoticed
I'm gonna
because
share
we
my
can't share our
screen now.
platform.
Uh,
Are you gonna share it?
yeah, I'm gonna share my screen and show you.
Hell yes. That's gross, by the way. I think we'll piss some people off if you put this podcast on our group.
Oh yeah. Oops.
By the way, mom's rule. I just want to put that out there. And it's bullshit that your wife has to work on Mother's Day.
It really is.
It should be a paid vacation. But you gotta give it up to the moms, especially the ones that work on Mother's Day.
There we go. Golly. Got me popping up. All this stuff making it hard here. Okay. So.
My goodness. You and your Wikipedia.
I was looking at MK and Iomi. Hold on. But look.
Atomwaffen. And so kicked him off.
Holy goodness.
Ooh, creepy. No way.
And this was kind of his running bit, was he's like, if you're gonna be a Nazi, like go full blown Nazi, don't go halfway. That was his thing. Is that the dude was that Proud Boys are a joke. These are the real Nazis.
Oh my.
Where is it? Well, anyway, but if you read this, like, it says accused former shared child support pornography. John Cameron Denton. Dating another white supremacist. Here you go. Denton went by the
That's
nickname Rape. He's accused by organizing a threatening campaign against ProPublica recruiter who had named him and other Adam Wambam members. Fake threats were called into ProPublica's New York office. Such threats are called swatting.
oh my. So
Prosecutors
John,
said the group also called in threats to a historically black church in Alexandria, the home of Department of Homeland Security head Kirsten Nielsen.
so John Philip Burns asked me, he's like, "Hey Tawnya, is Facebook cool with your posts? Half of them sound line incitements to rivaling anything those jailbird Proud Boys could muster." And I was like, I really hope that they aren't happy with them. Zuckerberg can suck it. And then I was like, those Proud Boy bitches ain't got shit on me. And then I said to him, I was like, I seen you had a post get taken down for hate speech and another one for inciting violence, I do believe. Apparently, Facebook thinks you are more dangerous than little me with the white girl from rural America. Isn't Zuckerberg too? That's weird. So yeah, he's like, your posts like rival anything that Proud Boys have ever given, and I'm like, yeah, that's because Proud Boys ain't got shit on me. Fuck them. They aren't revolutionaries.
Fucking wannabes.
Wannabes. Fucking bitches.
Incest the puns go first.
Fact. I'll let them be the sacrifice.
Oh Lord. But it was one
Did
of
you?
those
And
things. I mean, I don't care. You know, that's kind of what I'm saying is like if that's the part of the Proud Boys. It's like the original intent of the whole idea of the Proud Boys. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. And then later there was a bunch of fucking like neo-Nazis that kind of infiltrated the group and they didn't self-police. They were just happy to have more people in the group. You see what I'm saying? And this is the problem with a lot of conservative movements. Is the fact that they don't self-police. This is where they get overloaded by all these different ideas that just rip themselves apart, and then they can't hold themselves together. It's a lot of the reason why a lot of Democrats can't hold themselves together. They're a conservative party too,
oh
and
my
they have the
god.
same issue. Is they're trying to coalesce all these ideas that don't work together. And because they don't work, and because these ideas don't work together, they rip themselves apart every couple of years. This is the reason why Trump was able to appeal to the union side of the Democratic Party and completely rip the Democratic Party to pieces. And the Democratic Party has been trying to cover this scent and rebuild this whole time, but they haven't really done that.
No.
If you look. And
no. I'll be right back.